One bad bitch, she do what I say so. 2 big 40s and a big Draco. 3 more millions when you ask how my day go. Put up a phone, not a blueberry fango. One false move and we...
Yo, what's going on, St. Andrews College community, and welcome to the 4th ever episode of the Big Sack Sports Show. As always, I'm Ty, along here with my co-host, Dave Kurt. Dave, how are you today?
I'm doing absolutely phenomenal on this lovely Friday evening.
It is a lovely Friday evening, and that's great to hear. Just before we hop into this episode, as last time, we have a sponsor for today's episode, and you can tell us about that right now, Dave.
Sure, today's episode of BSSS is sponsored by Courtney's Colonoscopy, now accepting Visa and MasterCard. You swipe it, we wipe it. Use the code XLAX for 25% off your first purchase.
That's a great sponsor. Shout out, Mr. Shrimpton. And just before we hop in as well, happy early Mother's Day to all the Big Sack Sports Show mothers out there. We know you guys like our show. Well, I don't really know because I haven't checked, the analytics of the videos and stuff. But thank you, Mom. Love you very much. And we have a very, very special guest for you today, as we had the last couple episodes. So this man is an old boy from St. Andrews College and actually a great football player, great enough that he played at Windsor to have a great career as a linebacker, and now he currently works for Maple Leaf Sports Entertainment. Judging by the sounds of his name, he's the Italian stallion, not related to a Mario Bro or Joe Camiso. His job experiences will make you say wow, and apparently he can tackle like Junior Seau or Andrew Brother from another monitor. It's Super Mario Chiodo.
Thank you, fellas. Thank you. That's a great intro. I really appreciate it.
No worries. We always like to, greet our guests with a little special flair to it from the Big Sack Sports Show. So great to have you on, Mario. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. I mean, like everyone, it's kind of a strange time, but definitely getting through it. And I think, eventually things will kind of get rolling and we'll be back to where we want to be, especially as sports fans, back to, watching our sports and enjoying it. So yeah, I'm chomping at the bit.
Absolutely. And where are you coming from us today?
Yeah, so I'm from Whitby, Ontario. And if people don't know where that is, it's about, 45 minutes to an hour from Toronto in the east side. But yeah, that's where I've been. That's where I've lived my whole life and kind of grown up. So yeah. Great.
Well, hope you're doing well in Whitby over there. And for the folks at home, we hope you're all doing well. We have an extremely, extremely cool episode planned for you today. A lot of you might not have heard of Mario, but when we certainly heard of who he was and the kind of job that he has, we absolutely wanted to bring him onto the show. And we have a great episode for you today. So first, we're going to be talking a bit about growing up. Mario, especially with the sports world, as you'll find out to be, he's a sports fanatic. A bit about his life at St. Andrews College, his current job working for Maple Leaf Sports Entertainment, and how COVID-19 has affected his job. We also have some of his cool personal experiences that he has had in the world of sports, and a new segment coming up called Glow Up or Throw Up. So we're going to hop right into this one, and I'm going to start talking to you a little bit about sports growing up, Mario, for you. So as a kid, first of all, who are your favorite athletes and teams, and can you tell us why?
Well, I think growing up, close to Toronto, obviously being, a big Toronto Maple Leafs, Toronto Raptors fan to start with. I think, one that comes to mind right away is Vince Carter. Obviously, he was kind of like Michael Jordan in a way. Obviously very influential, great player. And I can still remember when he left and he kind of went to New Jersey. He was my favorite player, and then within that, split second, he became the most hated, I just hated him. So he was big growing up. And then, playing football, I always kind of looked at a guy and related to an athlete and kind of wanted to be like him. And my guy was Teddy Bruschi, kind of an old school linebacker that would he was a little undersized, but great leader. I mean, played on those championship Patriot teams, those dynasty teams. So yeah, I was a huge Teddy Bruschi fan growing up for sure.
That's great. And can you tell us a couple of sports that you played growing up, or what sports did you participate in?
Yeah, so like most kids in Canada and Ontario, obviously my first sport was hockey. And a cool story, kind of how everything shaked out was, I think it was right around grade 3 or 4. I tried out for a rep hockey team, and it was the first time that I was doing contact in hockey. So I can remember doing the tryout, and I wasn't very physical. I was a big kid, but I wasn't physical, and I ended up not making the team. So after the tryout happened, I kind of said, I talked to my dad and I said, Dad, I really don't want to play hockey anymore. I don't want to, why do I have to, push people and be physical with people? I didn't understand it at the time. And my dad was like, you know what? Yeah, maybe hockey's not for you, but I think you need to get a little tougher. I think you need to kind of go through that. So I started playing football, and I've, very unique to most people. Played football since grade 4, and it's not something you really see in Canada, obviously more in the States, but that's kind of how I started. And I was very unique compared to a lot of people I went to school with in terms of, playing football at a young age, and kind of that was my sport growing up. So that's kind of how it led me to, where I am now, I would say.
Yeah, awesome. So obviously you attended St. Andrews College for high school, and you were lucky enough to be there during probably the best era of football that they've had, along with Peter Godber, last week's guest.
Yeah.
Walk us through what it was like. Recall your experiences playing on that 2012 CISA championship team and what it was like with those guys.
Yeah, so honestly, man, it was very special. You got to give a lot of credit to Coach Gurr, first and foremost. I think he did an amazing job of bringing talent to the school. I think, before that, we went through a rough patch of not having a very successful football program. So I think he thought, it'd be good to recruit some guys from, not only out of Ontario, but we had a lot of guys come from Quebec, from out east, and even out west. So, we had an amazing, group of guys that we'd always bring in every couple years. And, that, especially that grade 12 or that 2012 team, we had guys we had Chris Merchant, who just won a Head Crichton Award, right? We had obviously Peter Godber, who played Division I football, is now, in the CFL. Jonathan Femi-Cole played Division I as a running back, as a Canadian, which is very, very, you don't see that very often. So we had a great team. We had a great amount of really good players, but our team, I felt, over, compared to the other teams we had in the past, we had a really close-knit team that we didn't really care about the individual sort of stats, which a lot of people in high school do. We worried about winning. And so that was probably my favorite, year playing football ever, just because we were so close and, we had so much fun, and we actually went undefeated. And that was the first time a St. Andrews football team went undefeated since 2003. And that was a really big accomplishment. And, obviously winning that CISA championship on our home field was amazing. And it was even better that we beat UCC, which was kind of our main rival those 3 years I was there. But that was an amazing time. It was really cool. And, looking back on it, the amount of talent that came out of that one team that went and played university or played professionally, there's a number of guys, and I'm just proud to be kind of a part of that group.
Yeah, so in 2012, you received the Addison Award, presented to varsity football players who made an outstanding contribution to the game throughout their SAC career. What would you say was your biggest contribution to the team on or off the field?
For me, starting in grade 10, playing in grade 10, I remember I was playing halfback at the time. I played linebacker my whole life. And then when I got to SAC, we had so many good players that I actually had to play DB my first 2 years. And I was a very quiet guy. I didn't really say much just because we had a lot of big personalities on our team. And I was always that quiet guy that just kind of wanted to work hard and contribute to the team any way I could. But I remember in grade 12, we went through a lot of leadership change, and we had a lot of new guys come in, and I kind of took it upon myself to be a leader. And I really focused on that. And I can still remember the beginning of training camp, I thought to myself, I'd proven enough up to that point to be a captain. And unfortunately, at the end of training camp, I wasn't named a captain. So I was really upset, and I was really discouraged. And I remember, talking to guys like Peter and a number of guys on the team, and they said, don't worry about it. Just, you can still be a leader without having the title of a leader. So I remember we played our first couple of games and we were playing really well, but we weren't playing as a group. And I remember we played UCC at their homecoming, and we ended up beating them. We were down and we came back and we beat them. And more than anything, I think in that game, I proved, through my play, but also things that I said, that I was really, could lead and could kind of get the guys going. So I remember after that game, Coach Gurr named me a captain, and that was a great, that was something great for me because that was kind of my goal. And then sort of that kind of lit a fire under me. And throughout the rest of the year, I was, really motivated to lead the group, and it kind of all came together when I got that award. So it was cool. It was cool. I think that was more than anything like my biggest sort of accomplishment.
We've talked about some of the big moments with that SAC team, but tell us, what were some of the funniest, most hilarious moments that you can recall from that squad of football players?
Yeah, so we had a very funny bunch. I mean, it started obviously with Peter Godber. He's like the ultimate prankster, but we had a number of guys that were just really fun personalities. I remember Zach Marcus, like Darian Arscott, Brendan Benoit. I think the funniest times are honestly like, after practice in the dining hall, going, getting something to eat, and I remember because I hung around with a lot of the offensive linemen, and they're hungry guys, and they, I'll tell you, they gave those ladies that cook up the food a lot of trouble over the years, just in the amount of food that they would eat and stuff. But honestly, yeah, like, bus rides to the games, that was always fun. We always kept it very loose, and that was honestly like those memories, those are the things I cherish the most. Just the time with the guys and coming together as a team for sure.
Lastly, walk me through what teachers outside of the football field were you closest with at St. Andrews?
Well, I lived in Flavel House for 3 years. So obviously Stu, who was the housemaster at that time, Dave Stewart, was big for me. He was, he's a guy that has, very flamboyant, great personality, very funny guy, always cracking jokes. So that kind of, helped me and not having, so much pressure on myself, because I know when a lot of guys that in high school there, it's a lot about your grades and athletics, and a lot of things are thrown at us, but he was always kind of that calming voice that kind of made light of a lot of things, and he was great. And then the football coaches, all of them, they're all really great leaders in their own way. And Coach Gurr, incredible. Coach Foote was the defensive coordinator, so I remember I had phys ed with him every year. So every phys ed class we'd be talking about, defensive schemes and stuff. I always enjoyed that. And, Mr. Shrimpton too, incredible guy, really coached me. Like, I really enjoyed when he coached me, and just a super smart sort of like analytical thinker in terms of the game, and really helped me when I kind of transitioned to university football. So.
Yeah. All right. Before we head on to our next section, I want to give it to Ty so we can give a quick shout out to our next sponsor for this episode.
That's right, Dave. Our next sponsor for today's BSS episode is Butcher's Butcher. We chop it, you cop it. Now serving real dingo meat. Please use the code It's Perfectly Legal for 25% off your first purchase. Now, with that aside, you slightly touched on playing at Windsor at the end there, and after graduating St. Andrews College, you did go to Windsor. And why did you choose to go there?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, we had a lot of guys in our graduating class that had a lot of offers and had a lot of interest from university coaches, and I was sort of the one in the group that had, I would say, the least amount of interest. For me, obviously, I'm being honest with myself, I was undersized. I wasn't the fastest guy. I wasn't the strongest guy. So a lot of my recruiting experience with that was, a lot of it was like on my own. Like, I had to do it on my own. So I remember, one thing with football, you have to make a highlight tape. So I remember getting all the tape together, and a guy in Flavel House by the name of Hunter Robertson, shout out Hunter, I went to his room and I said, "Hey man, I know you're really good at, editing videos. Do you mind making a highlight tape for me?" So he said, "Yeah, absolutely." And he did it. And from there, I kind of just took that tape and emailed a bunch of coaches and kind of reached out to a bunch of people. And it really taught me, if you want something, you got to kind of go and do it yourself. Right. So, from that, I did get a lot of interest from teams out east, but also I remember at the time Carleton was just starting up their football program. So interest from there, Laurier, and then Windsor. And the head recruiter at the time was named Steve Snyder, and he's now the head football coach at Queens. And he really, really wanted me. He wanted me to come to school. He was great at kind of recruiting and pitching, the opportunity at Windsor, and the fact that, a great academic school, but also up and coming football program. And what really got me too was, the sports fan in me. He said, across the border is Detroit, where the Detroit Tigers play the Detroit Lions, the Red Wings. So he goes, that's sort of an experience you're not going to get anywhere else. So after that, I was really sold. And I thought at the time, it was a perfect fit for me. So that's why I kind of decided on Windsor.
Awesome. And can you please briefly describe for everyone at home the experience of university for football? What was it like playing?
It was incredible, man. Like I would never, I wouldn't change it for anything. Like being a student athlete, it's definitely like a privilege. But at the same time, it affords you so many great opportunities in terms of meeting people. You learn so much about, time management and really being on top of your stuff. So, for me going into university, obviously my education was number one. And I said to myself, you know what? If I can play 4 years and be a part of a team and contribute in any way I can, it's really a bonus. But I'm here to get my education and really just have a good experience. And that's really what happened. I met a lot of really good people there. Playing on the football team was amazing. I mean, it was a lot different. For me, obviously not being heavily recruited, not being the most skilled person or, best athlete in the world. My first 2 years were really tough. When you go to university, you're younger, everyone else is older. So we had a lot of older guys in our team at the time. And so it was a process going through that, but I really enjoyed it. You got to get stronger. You got to get in the weight room and learn to do all that. And then, it really wasn't until my third year where I thought, I've gotten stronger, gotten bigger. I can contribute. So I remember my third year, our first exhibition game of the year, I was, I was playing, and I ended up getting a really, really bad ankle injury. And then from then on out, it's kind of that's that awful feeling that you have as an athlete where you kind of figure out like, this is probably the end of the line for me. But it taught me so much because sports was such a big part of my life. But, eventually you kind of have to pivot. And that's sort of what I did. I started, I played those other 2 years, but in those last 2 years of university, I really focused more on my education, networking with people, and figuring out what I'm going to do beyond that. So taught me a lot for sure.
Awesome. And moving on a little bit from your transition from Windsor to the outside world, obviously you mentioned to us that you bounced around for a couple of businesses, including TD, Rogers, and IMG. And at what point did you decide you wanted to venture into, the sports world, and how easy was that transition for you?
Yeah. So another thing, like I think when a lot of people come out of school, it's challenging, right? Because you got to go find a job, you got to find what you're passionate about. And, luckily for me, I the first couple of jobs I did, I realized I didn't like them. I didn't want to do them. So there was a point in time where I was trying to find a job and I didn't know what to do. And I remember someone telling me like, you know what, you're young. It's cliche to say, but, follow your passion. What are you passionate about? Try and make your passion your career. So I remembered back at the University of Windsor, a guy by the name of Richard Petty, who was the first CEO and president of the Toronto Raptors. He's a big alumni of University of Windsor, and he'd always come to our school and talk. So he'd always talk about his experience in being in the sports world and the sport business world. And he mentioned something about getting your ticket punched. He'd always say, get your ticket punched. And I that always stuck with me, like, okay. And what that pretty much means in a sense is you got to kind of go through the different experiences of life, of education, of doing a job you don't like to figure out what you want to do and get to where you are. So I remembered that. And, for me, I decided, the best avenue to kind of get in that sport business world, especially in Toronto, was to get more education. So I did a post-grad in sport business management. That afforded me the opportunity to do an internship and do a lot of cool leadership initiatives throughout that time. And then right around May of last year, I was finishing my internship. And like many of us that are from Toronto and Canada, the Toronto Raptors were on a big playoff run. Mm-hmm. And obviously an amazing time. And in the back of my mind, just coming out of a sport business program, I was thinking to myself, man, I'd really love to be part of that organization. Like, I think that's where I want to be. And I kind of manifested that in my mind. And little to be known, a couple of months later, I got a couple of job interviews and I ended up landing a role within the company. So, I tell people all the time that want to get into it, it's a lot about, networking and really manifesting what you want, and then just, doing the proper steps to achieve that. So.
Yeah, so today you're now the game day coordinator of MLSE. So walk us through, how did you secure that job, considering how tricky it is to get a position now in the sports market?
Yeah, so, going through the post-grad sports program and even out of school, that's all I was told. It's very competitive. It's very hard to secure a role, especially with MLSE, because they're really the only company in Toronto that owns major sports teams other than Rogers with the Blue Jays. So there's not a lot of opportunity. And, a couple things that I did to kind of secure the role. One, I networked really well. And I remember this is a lesson I actually learned at St. Andrews, and that was LinkedIn. So I remember back, this is back in 2012. I remember them saying LinkedIn's very important, especially when you finish school. It's a good way to network with people. So I remembered that, and I used it, and I leveraged it really well in connecting with people. And so I connected with a lot of people that worked within, the office that I'm in now, and that was big for me, because that helped me later on, because those people kind of vouched for me. And then, another thing was just, never kind of giving up. It's very easy. I'll be honest with you. I applied to a lot of different jobs out of school, and I got a lot of no's, or I got to an interview and I got, to different stages of the interview, and I didn't get the role. So I just kept trying. And eventually the story goes is I applied for a ticketing role within the company. And that's kind of where a lot of people start, because it's an easy way to get in the company and prove yourself. So I had a role there. I had an offer for ticketing in that. But I also had an opportunity to be in the role I'm in now, but it was only for an interview. So I have a ticketing opportunity, like at the offer for a job, and I have an opportunity for an interview for the role I'm with now. And the guy that hired me for the ticketing role said, you can either accept this role or you have to go away with it and just apply for the other role. So that was another I was kind of at a crossroads where, do I take this for sure thing, or do I risk it and interview for this other role? So I ended up, risking it, taking, the other route, which is in sponsorship, which I'm in now. And that's kind of how I got to where I am. And I completely, love my decision that I made, because it's been a really fun time so far.
Yeah, sounds like quite the journey. So for everyone watching back at home, do you want to explain what exactly a game day coordinator is for MLSE?
Yeah, so game day coordinator, pretty much, it's very much an executional role. So I'm responsible within a team of 4 of executing sponsorship initiatives for all the different teams that MLSE owns. So Raptors, Leafs, Argos, TFC, and then their minor league teams. So, in a nutshell, we have a number of different sponsors that we work with, that we use, or that we work together with to execute sort of their sponsorship, what they want to do. So whether it's a promotional night, whether it's different signage in the building, events that go on, past, outside of game days, we're kind of like the boots on the ground, making sure everything gets executed and fulfilled and done properly. So, the really cool thing about that is that you get to kind of be at a lot of the different games that happen. So for a regular sports fan, it's an incredible experience. You get kind of access that not a lot of people do. So that's what's really intriguing about the role, and I've really enjoyed it so far.
And when you say promotional stuff like that, does that include, say, like hosting an OVO night for the Raptors sponsored with Drake?
Yeah, so that all goes in, like that's part of like a big sort of partnership or sponsorship plan that they have with us. And it's really cool because you get to learn about other businesses as well and how they kind of execute their marketing plans. But so we're kind of my office is kind of dialed into everything there, both creatively, strategically, and then sort of my role would be like the executional side of it. So it's pretty cool because we work on a number of different projects that may take a couple months to come to, fruition. And my responsibility is kind of see the end of that. So it's cool to see something start very small and then kind of grow into this big thing. So, yeah.
Yeah. So this job sounds like it comes with a lot of perks. Tell us about some of the coolest experiences that you've had up until this point working at MLSE.
Yeah, a couple ones that stick out. The banner raising for the Raptors this year was really cool, just because they had so many. Like they had the commission. I remember seeing the commissioner, Adam Silver. Like they had a number of different guests in the building that night, and it was just a cool moment, right? Something that you may never see again. You know, a banner raising for the Raptors, which is amazing. Things like that, you know, being part of that. And then one story that sticks out on the Leaf side would be the e-bug situation this year with David Ayres. So I was working that game, and I can vividly remember when Carolina's second goalie got hurt, thinking to myself, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? Like, what's going on here? So I ended up going down kind of in that event level where you can see where all the players are. And I remember seeing David Ayres like walk onto the ice, and I could just remember looking at his face and thinking, oh my gosh, this guy is so nervous. Like, what is going on? And, you know, the crowd's freaking out. And I can remember he comes back in after intermission and he let 2 goals in, and, you know, he looked kind of worried. And I remember the coach of Carolina just saying, you know, hang in there. We're going to get this one. We're going to get this one. And then, you know, they end up winning the game. And it was pretty cool to see that and just kind of be like behind the curtain, so to speak. And so, yeah, you know, with the job, you get to be really close to sort of all the players, and you don't get so much of an interaction, but you just kind of get to be there, which is really cool.
Yeah, awesome. Speaking of, so lately sports has obviously been put on a bit of a hiatus. Tell us, where were you when you first heard about the NBA shutting down, as that was the initial sports closure, and what was going through your mind at that time?
Yeah, so that was a really busy time for me, just because we were kind of ramping up for playoffs. You know, both teams had like less than, 20 games to go in the regular season. So, our focus was like, okay, we're planning for playoffs. And I remember I wasn't working that day. I was home. It was later on, and I was actually watching the Utah game, where everything kind of happened, and that's kind of when, quote unquote, the sports world stopped. And I could just remember thinking to myself, like, wow, this is incredible. This is crazy. And so, from there, we kind of got word as an organization. The next day was a Leaf game against Nashville, and I was supposed to work that game and work that day. And we kind of came down from the top down saying, like, look, like everything's, kind of shut down. And really ever since then, we've kind of been on this waiting game for, when we're going to get the green light to come back, or how it's going to be presented, or where, our teams are going to play. So, a lot of things are still up in the air. I'll say that. A lot of things have yet to be determined. But I think compared to, let's say, a month or 2 months ago, we've made up a lot of good ground. And I do think there will be, in some way or another, sports again for the rest of the seasons.
Yeah, so obviously it's difficult being in the sports industry, but how has MLSE maintained, like, what have you guys been doing since the shutdown? What initiatives have they put forth?
Yeah, so we've done a number of really great things. 2 of our big venues that we have, so we have Scotiabank Arena, obviously, and we have BMO Field. So we have essentially turned those into, prep kitchens for feeding a number of different, charities and initiatives. So we've literally converted our venues into places where we can, donate, get food made, and then donate it to a number of different initiatives. So that just goes to like show like what our organization's all about. Like, obviously we have a big influence on the city and in the communities that we impact. So it's great to see that we're doing something. We're putting our venues to use and doing things that are going to help people, which is great. That's really our big initiative right now. And I think once we get back and at it, and I think we'll do even more. So.
Yeah, we're all excited for that when it does happen.
Yeah.
Before we head into our next section, I want to hand it over to Ty for our third and final sponsor for today's episode.
Yeah, 3 sponsors, Dave. Third time's a charm, so for this one will be better than all the other ones. This episode of the B.S is also proudly sponsored by DeMello's Dog Food. If my kids can eat it, so can yours. Please visit www.dteamdogfood.com and use the code CrunchyPup for 13% off your first order. Now that we've kind of concluded with the garbage sponsors today, we can get on to one of probably my personal favorite part of this episode. I'm so glad that we have Mario with us here for this one. And it's a new segment that we're going to be introducing to you guys. So since obviously you're a huge sports fan, it's really appropriate that we have this coming to you. So we're taking athletes, specifically hairstyles and clothing from the entirety of the sports world and bringing it in to judge these to athletes in a new segment we like to call Glow Up or
Brand new whip, just
Throw Up.
hopped in. I got options. I can pass that like Stockton. Just joshing. I'ma spend this holiday locked in. My body got rid of them toxins. Sports in the top.
So I'm gonna full screen this, and we're gonna be starting off here with David Kerp talking about the National Basketball Association.
Yeah, so our first participant in today's episode, we've got Vladimir Radmanovic, the little-known Seattle Sonics player. Now, what I'm getting from this picture initially is more of a Lil Yachty vibe rather than that of an NBA player. Now, Mario, would you consider this a glow-up or a throw-up?
Oh, man, looking at this, I think in that time, definitely a throw-up. But I think now, when you look at the different hairstyles that are in the NBA, I definitely think he would definitely fit in. So yeah. maybe a little ahead of his time, if I'm looking at his hair right now.
His face looks like he's just disgusted with the whole look too.
All right, heading into our next one from the 2002 NBA Draft Night, we've got the one and only Drew Gooden. Now, I don't know if he looks like an NBA player. I'm getting more of a Dr. Evil vibe from this. Do you consider this a glow-up or a throw-up?
I mean, I'm gonna say glow-up, just because I think you gotta be pretty bold to wear something like that, and it's the guy's draft night, and I mean look at the commissioner. I think he's digging the outfit, but for the time, again, that was the thing back then. The big baggy suits. So I'm gonna go with glow-up on this one.
All right, that's a hot take. Heading into our third NBA player, we've got the one and only Brody, Russell Westbrook. Now, we've got a variety of fits here. Some consider them cutting edge. Others, including myself, consider them simply disgusting, atrocious, hideous. Mario, thoughts? Glow up or throw up?
I mean, I love Russ as a basketball player and a competitor. I think he's amazing to watch. But I'm going to say throw up for this one just because, I mean, I like one out of maybe every 10 of his outfits. So, yeah, I love Russ as a ball player, but I think he needs, a new stylist. So I'm going to go throw up.
All right. I agree with you on that one, man. Heading into our last NBA player, we've got Alfred Payton.
Oh, man.
I'm looking at this picture, and I feel like I'm at the beach because I've never seen a better wave in my life. Tell me, is this a glow up or a throw up?
You know what? I don't mind it. Like, I think it's different and unique, and I think that's what he's going for here. Like, I've never seen a hairstyle like that. So, give credit to the guy. Like, he's got to play with that every single night. So I'm going glow up for this one for sure.
All right, I'll hand it over to Ty now to take us into the NFL.
I can't even look at that's so stupid. The next one. So first we have a player who is not just a complete mess on the field, but with his style as well right now. It's Cam Newton. And let me just tell you, looks absolutely hideous, is just atrocious. And then we got the stupid hats. Looks like he's a scarecrow on that one. And the one on the bottom right here is more of a recent one. So do we have a glow up or a throw up here, Mario?
Cam is I would call him a very unique individual. He's got the cryptic sort of writing on his Instagram. Yeah. He kind of brought the dab to the NFL. So he's definitely got his own. He definitely moves to his own beat of the drum. But I'm gonna say throw up here. I just think it's too much. I mean, he's a big personality. But yeah, I'm not feeling this at all.
I used to like Cam coming out of Auburn, and then his rookie season, his MVP season, and then kind of fell apart when he didn't dive for the ball when he got stripped there. But
that's right.
I think I went downhill. Moving on to our next player, we have Tim Tebow, and I have to be honest with everyone at home. I'm a proud Christian. I'm a huge Christian, and so is Tim Tebow. But I don't think God will ever forgive him for this, because this is just I don't even care, to be honest, Mario, if you say glow up or throw up. This is absolutely a throw. This is hideous, but let's see what you have to say anyways.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's like rookie training camp sort of hazing in a sense, but I used to be the biggest Tim Tebow fan. I loved him. I loved how he was like a linebacker playing quarterback. But yeah, for that, I mean, this particular hairdo, I gotta go throw up here. Sorry, Timmy.
I love Tim Tebow too. I'm a big Gators fan, so he certainly did us well, but not as so much in the NFL. And the thing that actually kind of worries me more, if you look at the photo, I believe that says the patch for the Children's Hospital. If he pulled up to the Children's Hospital with that thing on his head, I think the children would be thoroughly frightened. But moving on to the person just below him is Troy Polamalu from the Pittsburgh Steelers. And this one, obviously sponsored by Head & Shoulders, so he's famous for his hair. I think it's actually quite nice. I think it's pretty good. But is it a glow-up or a throw-up for you, Mario?
No, I mean, I got to give respect to Troy. This is definitely a glow-up for me. I mean, for a guy that had such a, big hair and all that going on, and obviously a fierce competitor on the field, he was such a quiet guy. So it was kind of like a really big contrast for me when thinking about it. But no, I respect Troy, and I think that kind of made him, unique in terms of the NFL. So I got to go glow up for this one for sure.
The way you just described him, I guess you can kind of see how it's applicable to your career. You mentioned that you weren't the biggest character or personality, but you kind of let your play do the talking out there.
No, for sure.
So of course you gotta respect Troy. And moving to our final NFL player, I've never really heard of this guy before, but it's Pat McQuiston, I want to say.
Wow.
That is absolutely hideous, and I want to pop up on the screen. I'll pop it right now. One of our teammates in training camp this year, named Jack Hutchison, actually got a mullet for training, and it looked disgusting, and it kind of reminded me of this. But what's your opinion on it, Mario?
Yeah, I mean, this is like a typical O-lineman haircut, I think. Like, it's a little bit of both. Like, you're doing too much. So I think he's like, he's halfway there, both sides. So I got to go throw for this one just because, he's got to commit to something, right?
I disagree, man. Business in the front, party in the back. It's definitely a glow up for me.
I can't look at that without being kind of grossed out. So I have to go with Mario there. It's just hideous. It's not a good photo at all. But okay, and I'm actually going to stick with the next topic as well, because Dave can't really speak on it. Whatever, it's the NHL, and of course, Dave being from Texas, apparently he's from Houston. He didn't even know who the Dallas Stars were before he moved to Canada, which is kind of sad in my opinion.
Wow.
But we'll go to this first one here, and this one actually is not so bad. He looks a little bit ridiculous, Jamie Benn. And who's a current Dallas Star, which Dave definitely didn't know. But what do you think about this outfit, Mario?
Yeah, I mean, definitely some Southern flair. Shout out to, he's obviously he plays in Dallas, so he's got that going. He's also got the, Canadian tuxedo vibe going on too. So I'm definitely going to say glow up for this one. I respect the fit by Jamie Benn for sure.
I actually respect it too. But the next one, so it's someone that we hold very close to our hearts, being Leafs fans, Mario. Yep. But Austin, especially, it's regarding the stash. It's a little bit disgusting, but apparently he did it because of obviously the Leafs goal song is Hall & Oates, Make My Dreams Come True. I forget the title of it right now, but I'm not a huge fan, but I want to see what you say about this one.
I think I'm morally obligated to say glow up just because, I work for the organization. But, yeah, I mean, Austin, he has his own little, flair to him. I know, you see him a lot, pregame. And, you got to respect the guy. So I got to say glow up. I got no other choice.
Before we head into the next one, I'd consider myself an impartial source as I know absolutely nothing about hockey. But just from this snapshot here, it looks more like something you'd see on the than on the hockey ice. I don't know. I'm a little conflicted. I'm going to go with throw up.
That's terrible. Yeah, it doesn't look too appealing, but I have to go glow up as well. Leafs fan since day one, so I like that. Then we got Joe Thornton here, who Dave is very surprised, as that's probably the first time he's ever seen him in his entire life. Joe Thornton, he's a huge vet in the league right now, on the brink of retirement, I imagine. And he actually recently shaved his beard. But I've always kind of been, iffy towards it, especially when you got contrasting colors in it. But I want to see what you say, Mario.
Yeah, I mean, I love Joe Thornton. I think he's a great, kind of an Iron Man of hockey in terms of how long he's played and, the career he's had. So, I mean, I respect his career, but I do respect the beard. I mean, that I know that takes a lot of effort and time and a lot of beard oil. And I'm going to say glow up for this one. I mean, I respect it.
I respect it too, but as Leafs fans, some might think that we disrespected this. If you recall, Nazem Kadri, who's a former Leaf player, got into a fight with Joe Thornton and ripped out part of his beard hair that actually got caught on camera.
He did, yeah.
Nasty. Dave's looking even more surprised than we saw in the first place. But we're moving on down here to his teammate, Brent Burns. And this is a classic hockey look, in my opinion. This is when people talk about hockey, this is what I think of immediately, especially with the teeth. So I think it's a blow up, but I don't know about you, Mario.
This one, yeah, I mean, he's got the missing teeth. He's got the long beard. He looks very happy to be there. But you know what? I'm going to say throw up for this one just because there's just too much going on. I mean, he's got the long hair going on. I don't know. I think Joe Thornton kind of has that look, and I think he's just kind of, just there. So I'm going to say throw up for this one. Sorry, Brent.
Sorry, Brent. The next one, I think you know who this is. This is, of course, Bobby Clark. For everyone at home. Growing up, I actually used to lose a lot of my front teeth, and I'd be compared to Bobby Clark because I wouldn't have any here, and I would kind of look like him. So I want to say that this is a glow up. How about you?
I mean, the hockey purist in me, it's got to say glow up because, I mean, he's got the missing teeth. So, he's a grinder. He's got the mullet. He's got the, little janky smile. So this reminds me a lot of, like, old-time hockey. I think my old man would really appreciate it. So I'm going to say glow up for this one.
I have to agree. And then finally, I don't know where I dug this one from. He wasn't even on the list at first. I don't even know if, Dave, you might have heard of this man before, Alexander.
I distinctly remember seeing on Bleacher Report a highlight of him doing a keg stand out of the Stanley Cup. That's the only thing I know about this guy.
Of course, it's the only thing you know. But this is atrocious. It looks like, like someone cracked like a bunch of eggs over his head and he's kind of just goofy and sitting there. But I don't like this at all. How about you?
You know what? I'm a big fan of Alexander Ovechkin. I think he's a great player. I think he could honestly play football. Like, he's a big dude. He's physical, and he also scores goals. So, based off that, the hair, yes. I mean, he's a Russian guy. Their hair is always a little weird. So, but I'm gonna go glow up for this one, just because I'm a big fan of Obi.
Fair enough. All right, I think, Dave, you got the next category here.
I wanted to switch it up a little bit, take us over to the tennis world. So first up, we've got John McEnroe. So what do you think about this?
I think it's a glow up. I mean, he's got the headband, he's got the long locks dripping down. So, I mean, he had a lot of swagger when he played. He was very, flamboyant and vocal. So you got to respect a man like that. So I'm going glow up for this one.
All right, and heading into our second tennis star. I'd never heard of this guy, and let me tell you, I struggled with that last name. Vitas Gerulaitis. Now, I don't know about you, but not a fan. What do you think? Glow up?
Honestly, man, I was watching The Last Dance a couple nights ago, and I remember one of the guys in it that was gambling with Jordan. They look very similar. Like
the security guard, eh? Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm not. The first picture, not too bad. The second picture is like, the reality, I think, of his hair. So I'm going throw up for that one.
All right, now I'm going to hand it over to Ty so we can take us over to the WWE world.
Oh, I love it.
Hey, Dave, I can tell you're not much of a tennis fan either because you said John McEnroe. Well, I'm actually surprised. I'm surprised. His name is John McEnroe. And actually, the second one you might have pronounced better. It's Vitas Gerulaitis, but you did pretty good, Dave.
I tried.
But yes, we do have the WWE. So I don't know if you guys, or especially Mario or Dave, I've never know if you've heard of this man before, but certainly every time I wake up screaming at 4 a.m, it's because of this man. This was in my nightmares. I used to watch the WWE all the time. He's famous for putting worms in his mouth.
Yes.
That's an attractive touch, and that smile certainly doesn't hurt one bit. So I want to get your opinion. Is this a glow up or a throw up?
Yeah, I do. I watched wrestling too growing up, and I remember this guy, and yes, he probably did give me a couple nightmares. I'm going to say throw up just because the man would literally eat live worms. So Yeah, just I mean, credit to the guy for doing that. I mean, it's all part of the show, but that's really gross. So I'm gonna say gross.
So we'll go to our last one, and thankfully you touched on The Last Dance because people are probably they saw Russell Westbrook and they saw the other NBA figures and say, well, how would you not include one of the biggest characters in NBA history? And we certainly did not forget Dennis Rodman.
Okay. Oh wow.
And some of these are like absolutely ridiculous. Like if you look at this, it's just all of them. So we can do a special thing for Dennis. So why don't we go each one glow per throw?
Speed round.
This is a throw up for sure. Sorry, Dennis.
Sorry.
This is a lot. Yeah, I'm going throw up for this one too.
I don't think the nose rings help at all.
Oh man. He's trying really hard. I mean, you got to give him credit. Like this must take some couple hours to get this done. So this is a throw up for me again, man. I don't know what to say.
I agree. Now you got a couple here. Obviously, I think that's Bert.
So these ones I'm gonna go with glow up. Like this is I think how a lot of people remember Dennis Rodman with different colored hair and different designs and whatnot. And I mean, you got to respect it. He was his own guy, and he had a very unique way of expressing himself. So you got to give the guy credit. Plus, the thing is, for all the antics he had, he was an amazing player, and I think we're all kind of learning that through The Last Dance. But I think for this collage of photos, I'm going blow up.
I say
for me, the haircut right here on the screen with the 33s in it especially hits differently because shout out to Scottie Pippen.
Yeah.
I believe he rocked this on the return of Scottie following his prolonged injury. And this was just a big way to stick it to the Bulls management. And I think culturally, this is just so iconic.
Just to stick it to Jerry. That's such an iconic person. But these haircuts, I think saying he's unique was an understatement, but they were great. And I personally think it's either him or Bill Russell for best defensive player in NBA history.
Yeah, for sure.
So I hope you all enjoyed that at home. That was our first ever segment of Glow Up or Throw Up. Mario, I hope you enjoyed that. I certainly did. And I hope
Dave
did as well.
Yeah.
It's always great to teach Dave a little bit more about hockey. We were thinking of having a segment about that in the future, but it's certainly been great. But unfortunately with that, that actually about wraps up our cool episode for tonight, and I had a ton of fun. I hope you did as well, Mario. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, guys, I really appreciate it. I appreciate the show and kind of giving people some content. I think everyone's like starving for something right now, so I appreciate you guys putting on this show. It's really great. I've really enjoyed it, and keep going. Keep doing your thing.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really interesting to have someone like you on because you provided us a really unique insight into the sports world, and it's kind of crazy to think that not too long ago you were in our very same position as a grade 11 student at SAC.
Yeah. No, for sure. It's it goes by quick. Honestly, like as like corny as it sounds, like I do still like really think back on those times at St. Andrews, and those were really, really fun times for me, and definitely a special place. And what I'll say is, like, obviously you can say this now, but like don't take it for granted because it's a very special place and somewhere where you're surrounded by a lot of really great people and great experiences. So just make the most of it. That's the kind of advice I'll leave you with.
That's great advice for everyone at home. And make sure to keep safe, guys. As always, I'm Ty.
I'm Dave.
And he's Mario. This has been the Big Sac Sports Show.